Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the April 11th, 2024 ESS Finance Subcommittee meeting. We will go ahead and start with the March 7th, 2024 summary of subcommittee actions, the minutes. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review those.
There was one correction identified, and it was just a typographical error, but we had Melissa's name on the wrong line, so we moved her up to the memo line, and so the version in your packet may not be the correct one, but we have corrected it, and that is represented in what I'm displaying to you today. Otherwise, there were no other changes identified after we distributed it.
Any other changes from the members? If not, I would take a motion for approval.
This is Sherry. I'll move to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Sherry. Do I have a second?
This is Geraldine. I'll second.
Thanks, Geraldine. So moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 But Kelly, Mel, both aye in the chat pod. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, we'll move on to the financial reports. The first thing on the agenda is the accounts receivable update. Lisa, do you want to go ahead and take that?
I absolutely can. So we're moving slowly in the correct direction. The Simplifile receivable is frustrating, but we've learned that Kelly can actually correct that for us. He has all the information, so he'll be able to get that charge to go through, and that is honestly the wish of Simplifile, is for us to pull the money from them as opposed to them sending us a check, which seems like it would be the easier thing to do. Potawatomi, we have the check from Potawatomi, and I'll run that to the bank today. It's something I usually do when I go to lunch. Lee County, Nancy is aware of the outstanding balance and told me last week she was going to request a check. The Iowa County Recorder's outstanding one, we received that right after the end of the month. So we should see that is off. And then Mr. Etzel, that's the one from Lynn County, and I actually have an email from him dated yesterday. I got the email yesterday that the check went out in the mail on Tuesday, so we should have that today. So slowly, but in the right direction, and I really do appreciate everyone's patience as we've worked through this.
So after communication, we identified or communicated with Mr. I assume Etzel, and yes. After you received the additional information, acknowledged that he did make that transaction, and so I look forward to receiving his check. Hopefully this doesn't happen very often, but it can. It's just part of the process. So otherwise,
this one was a Lynn County ATV transaction, but it also happens on occasion with a law firm or something, when depending on who's reconciling the account, that they don't recognize the charges from ESS. And so if they call us, we're always happy to assist.
Yep.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. Any other questions regarding that? If not, we'll go ahead and move on to the April summary of the March payments.
Okay. Some of our guests have been at a few meetings before, but just I'm just going to repeat the purpose of what we're doing here is that there are certain things that you do for checks and balances, and one of them is for the things that we do have as a staff some measure of control over, such as using the credit card or using the banking system to issue checks to vendors. We do this every month just to be transparent about the checks that we're writing. Normally, I will try to highlight a few things that may not be usually present, but if anybody does have a question about anything else, please let me know. So some things that I would highlight this month from the payables list is first, we did make a deposit with Blue Compass, which is the organization and venue where we have held the deputies conference in the last couple of years. We did have a team meeting recently and decided that even with our staff being constrained a little bit, and Kristen working part-time, that we would go ahead with that. Then the next one is that I would highlight is I did attend the recent PREA conference, and this is the travel expenses associated with that. It is actually, we came in a little bit under budget on that. Then there are two bills from Iowa Solutions. They are the vendor that was selected to provide our office IT services, replacing All Covered, who is a subsidiary of Financial Minolta. These bills have been paid, but they're not the regular monthly bill, because as a part of the agreement, we did agree to some startup and transition costs to help us configure things in our office. And so I'm highlighting those. That monthly amount going forward should be around $500 a month, unless we're asking them to do something beyond normal support. I'm highlighting the data center expenses, and again, we're looking at the month of March, and we did pay the bill for the old data center where our current equipment was housed. As of April 1st, that is going to end. So we've already received the first bill from LightEdge for our hosted services. And when you see those, it's going to be about $8,000 a month, because they're doing everything for us from an equipment perspective, and we aren't going to have the racks anymore. Then the other thing you're going to see differently going forward is that the way the agreement is set up, basically they asked us to pay at the beginning of the month, not in arrears. So the April bill that we've now received actually is a bill for April and May. And when you add those two things together, it's not a small number, around 16,000. But going forward, then it's just going to be month to month, somewhere in that $8,000 range. So I don't want anybody to be shocked by that. Frankly, I took all the shock for you when I saw the first bill, and now we had a meeting the other day, Kelly and I did, with their technical team and subsequently with their billing department. We went through the bill line by line, and we're satisfied that what they're billing us is actually matching what we agreed to. So we'll look forward to moving that forward. This is a part of my report later, but I will just mention we are fully in the cloud now, and the old rack is being dismantled. So we're looking forward to making that work going forward. I'm going to defer to Lisa on the Lyon County Van Buren County point of sale items.
Oh, I can absolutely speak to that. So Bank Card USA issued new credit card devices to those two counties, but unfortunately did not tie them to our reports. So we received the money, but it wasn't on the report that we use to generate the NACHA file, which is what we submit to Bankers Trust every day to get the money to the counties. NACHA is NACHA. And so after we did some investigation, we determined that we needed to send them the money. So that's where that is.
And we'll talk more about the point of sale transition a little bit later on in the agenda. Then with regard to the credit card report, the only thing really that stands out for me to talk about is the payment that we have made to Indeed for the recruitment efforts for the accounting position. There actually is a small additional somewhere around $70 that carried over into the next month of April before we finish it up. But that is not a typical thing that you'll see on our invoice or on our credit card statement. I'll pause there because those are the things I wanted to highlight. If anybody wants to ask a question about any item, I am happy to do so. I'm happy to answer.
Any questions for Phil?
This is Mel. Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry
Yes.
to go backwards, but on the finance meeting minutes from March 7th, I just verified with Lisa Kent. I hadn't seen the updated ones where Phil, you moved me from other participant to a member, but Lisa Kent's still on there as a member, and she was only a member because she was the association treasurer, like I am. So I believe she needs to go as other participant.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I was just verifying with her. I didn't think she was a member, and she confirmed she wasn't.
Well, she's my committee chair, so if she wants to be there, tell me, Alicia, where you want, and I'll put you there, but we can put you in the other participants list. Stacy, would you maybe ask for unanimous consent to make that
Right.
change?
So just so we're clear, we're just removing Lisa Kent as a member on the first page of the minutes to the other participant. We're just moving her name down because of the shift in duties, and now Mel is our treasurer. So all in favor of that, say aye.
I
Aye.
Couple in the chat pod. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we're good. Thank you, Mel.
Just for the record, the reason we do it that way is just to help identify who the voting members are, and we're not saying other participants are second-class citizens or anything. So it's just a way to distinguish between the two. That's all we're
Mhm.
trying to do there. If there are no questions, I would ask for approval, the acceptance and approval of the payment reports.
Okay, do I have a motion? This is Stacy. I'll go ahead and make a motion. Do I have a second?
This is Geraldine. I can second.
Thank you, Geraldine. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, I'm sorry, I was reading the chat pod. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to the April Fund 255 reimbursement with Phil. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so this is our monthly invoice to the state treasurer's office and Fund 255. It's the $1 fee that's on every recording and goes into the treasurer's office. Income from that has been down this year, as it has been really last year too. And so we worked out an arrangement with the state treasurer's office that we would just simply bill for the amount of income in the previous month. So the amount of the reimbursement invoice is $39,418. If you look at the supporting documents, our payroll was obviously higher than that. And if you'll permit me, I'm just going to skip ahead to the report from the state treasurer for Fund 255, just to show that the income in the previous period or in the most recent period was $39,418. So that is the way that we have organized it, and the treasurer's office is fine with that. So we would request your approval on the submission of this reimbursement invoice to the state treasurer.
Do we have any questions for Phil regarding Fund 255 payment? If not, I would take a motion for approval.
This is Sherry. I'll move to approve.
Thanks, Sherry. Do I have a second?
This is Mel. I'll second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
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 I
There's some in the chat pod. Opposed, no. Motion carries. I apologize, guys. We had an alarm go off my phone is blowing up, so I apologize. So I will get my poop in a group. Next on the agenda is the February 2024 financial reports with Phil.
Okay, I'll run through these as efficiently as I can. This is the banker's trust statement, and we're looking at the month of February, because we do kind of look at things about a month and a half behind, just to make sure the reconciliation is done. The ending balance, or the beginning balance was 1,292,658 and change, and an ending balance of 1,348,684 and change. And then I'm shipping through most of the bank statement, so feel free to review it in detail as you desire. We did successfully reconcile the drawdown or the escrow account for some of our customers who use that as a payment option. And then we did reconcile successfully on the last day of the month, the balance that matches the bank statement. So those were successfully done. Then looking at the P&L statement, and this is the combined statement with both budgeted income and revolving income. We had budgeted income of 117,555, and then revolving income of $2,080,785. And then moving to the expense side of the equation, we had $98,000 and $98,182 in expenses. So the net income is there in the budget, and then our revolving expenses were $2,080,521, and the overall net income, taking everything together, was $13,922. And this is where we generally expect it to be. I do want to report to you, however, that we did discover an accounting bookkeeping error, and that error was associated with the entry of information relating to our bank service charges, and also the gateway fees that we pay to Professional Solutions and to Bank Card USA. The checks were written. I mean, the payments were made to them, and the payments were entered into the bookkeeping system, but they were entered in such a way that they did not get assigned to the balance sheet correctly. We have reviewed this. We believe that we know exactly what needs to be changed. But I do want to be transparent with you guys and say that the actual ending balance is maybe a little bit overstated in the budget because of that. On the other side, the positive news is that even taking that into account, because I keep track of this separately on a spreadsheet, so I know what's going on. But we are in the positive for all 3 months of this quarter, January, February, and then even looking into March. We look to be in pretty good shape. So income is up a little bit in March, and we took a number of measures at the end of the year when we put the current year budget together to control expenses, and that seems to be working. But the actual ending balance in our budgeted income is probably about 10,000 smaller in net income than what appears in the financial report. So if you do the math, 117,000 minus 98,000, you're looking at about $19,000 net income in the budget. The actual net income, once we make this correction, is going to be about 10,000, and that's kind of where we're going to end up. So I just want you to be aware of this. When we do the quarterly report, we should have this corrected, and we'll report to you on how that is corrected when we get to the next meeting. But overall, we're about where we want to be. And if you'll permit me, I just want to look ahead a little bit and say that I do anticipate that we're going to be making a recommendation for a budget amendment at your next meeting, at the next meeting of the ESS coordinating committee. And the the result is probably going to end up focusing on um, the um, uh, the issue of compensation for some of the staff, and primarily reflected in the number of hours that we can allocate for Kristen's position. So last time around, when we amended the budget, we added 5 hours to her work week. I'm going to see if we can't do that again. The other big thing that is on the docket for consideration is a change in the amount of funding allocated for the maintenance reimbursement credits. Okay, so in the budget that was approved, you authorized, and this was simply a budget balancing action. Nobody wanted to do this, but we changed the amount of the cost sharing credit. Last year it was $170,000. We had to reduce it to $115,000. So, and I'm not making any guarantees today, but as we look at a budget amendment in May, I'm looking at the possibility of increasing that budgeted credit amount from $115,000 to something higher than that. So I think our goal is to go as far as we can with that without putting us in a position where we might end up, busting the budget. So I just want you to know those are probably the two main things that we're going to be looking at as far as the budget amendment, other than the adjustment from budget to actual. The changes in the budget relating to our shift from our own equipment to hosted equipment, we've already made that change. So we aren't going to have to do anything more with that. In terms of our overall assets and liabilities, including the value of our software and the accrued balances in our reserve funds and in our operating account, we're sitting at $2.407 million. That is a little bit overstated in terms of what our daily balance in the bank account is, but in terms of where we are in the balance sheet, that's about where we stand. And I would anticipate that the adjustment that we're going to make to address this bookkeeping error is probably going to primarily show up in this accounts payable line, which is currently a negative number. And that's just because payments that were made were not assigned to the appropriate account, and we'll be fixing that. Okay, questions on the banker's trust or the main operating account?
I just have one question, Phil. So the adjustment will, when we do our next meeting, our quarterly, will you show will it be like a journal entry, or
Yeah,
do you
Yeah.
want to just provide that with, with a
Yeah, we
statement
can-
in the packet?
yeah,
Just
we
say
can
this is,
absolutely.
as stated in the February,
We-
just so
we should-
everyone understands.
I think that's a good suggestion. I
Okay.
think we can do that. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Phil? Anyone? If not, I would take a motion.
Well, wait, I'm not done yet.
Oh,
I
I'm
just-
so
I-
sorry.
That's
I'm
all
sorry.
right. I just paused for the
Okay.
bank statement. I'll
Oh,
finish the credit card report real quick. So we had a beginning balance in our credit card account of $7,294 and change, and we had an ending balance of $3,637 and change. And I want you to just remember that number, because when you look at the reconciliation report, that we did successfully reconcile that account. I'm not going to go over all of the changes, because we did that last month. Okay, when we looked at that statement, and we will look at it again in the next meeting as well. Then for Fund 255, I gave you a glimpse of this earlier, but we had income of $39,418.55, including interest, and the ending balance as of the end of February was $155,603. Sort of our working target is we just want to make sure we're at 100,000 or above, and then we're trying to manage that by only billing for what the income was in the previous month. And that is what we have been doing. And the P&L statements reflect that same information. Now, I am done with the financial reports. I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions for Phil? Now I would take a motion for approval of the February 2024 financial reports.
This is Geraldine. I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Geraldine. Do I have a second?
Okay.
Sherry's in a meeting, so.
I can second it.
Thanks,
This
Sherry.
is Sherry.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 There's some in the chat pod. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, we'll go ahead and talk more about the audit prep.
Okay, so the one additional thing I want to share with you relating to the audit is that one of the things that we now do, we've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now, is at the end of each year, we kind of look at what our software development activity has been. And you can kind of group it into two things. One is sort of tweaks and improvements to existing software, or it can also include just basic support and maintenance, okay? Then you've got another group that you would say, hey, this is new. We're building a new asset. This is also associated with changes in accounting principles that occurred a few years ago. So since we're not a for-profit corporation and we really can't evaluate a market value of our software assets, we have to come up with another way to do that. And the way we use it is just to look at, okay, here's an activity that is new. We're developing a new piece of software, and we track our time associated with the development efforts that are put into that. We also include a little bit of testing time that maybe Lisa or Corey or I might do to add value to the software that's being developed. And then once we have those groupings, then we keep track of it, and we base it upon our actual human resource costs for each of our developers. And then we do some simple multiplication, and you end up with a dollar amount that I would readily say is not market value, but it is a dollar amount that we can assign to it. And then all of that rolls into the balance sheet. So when we go through our audit this year, the values that I'm showing you in this report are going to be moved from an expense category into the asset category. And then the assets are then depreciated over a period of years, which in most cases is a 3-year period. So there are 6 things that we have in our asset report this year. One is the creation of a central authentication system, the new login, the 2-factor authentication. That stands alone. Then we started the creation last year of a new admin application for all of the Iowa Land Records applications. And then we, as you know, we talked about it earlier, we have an arrangement with Lynn County where they are connected into our payment system. And that was, all 3 of those things were completed this past year. Another thing that we have done and started to move into production is a new API that we use with the local service providers to facilitate the e-submission activity. And from our perspective, the development work on that has been done, but we are implementing it. Not every service provider has fully implemented it at this point. Some have, others are in process of working on it. But as an asset, the software work on that is done. The new search application that we rolled out at the end of last year, that was a 2023 asset development, and that is included. There is one thing that we're still working on that is almost done, but not quite complete, and that is a new API for the integration with our county service providers to transfer records from the county system to Iowa Land Records. we have just a few things to do left on that before we'll consider it done. So we're counting what we've worked on so far in the asset category, but we won't close that out until we get to the end of 2024, because we do expect to have it done this calendar year. So load all that up together, and in 2023, we created $427,776 in assets for all of that software that was developed. And you can see in the 2 bullet points, a little over $269,000 came from expenditures through our external software development partner located here in the Des Moines area called Lean Techniques. And then we had $158,000 in change actually performed by our internal development team. And so that is what we have reported to the auditor. And when the audit is done, as I said, that 427,000 and change will move from the expense side into an asset on the balance sheet. So I would say that's one of the biggest things I have to report relating to the audit this year, other than just normal bookkeeping and tracking. But if there's any news in the audit, this is it. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. Not asking for action, just wanted to give you a report on it.
Thanks, Phil. I have one question for like the, in our packet, the software development hours and expenditures. Is that the next page? Maybe not on the packet. Page 44. So there you go, that page.
Okay.
So Amber, Jordan, Angela, Travis, Kevin, are they the lean techniques?
Yes, they are all
Okay,
members of the Lean Tech
Gotcha.
team, and they bill at $150 an hour. And so, what this does is reflect the hours that they spent working on each specific item, and you can see where the ILR developers dedicated their time as well. So yes, this is a report, the baseline report that was used to calculate the numbers in the memo.
Great. Thanks, Phil. Does anyone else have any questions for Phil on that update? Okay, hearing none, we can move
Okay, then
forward.
Going forward, I just wanted to give you an update. I think the agenda is wrong. It says February, but it's actually the March update on e-submission. So e-submission activity compared to last month did go up. It's actually almost right on to where we were in 2023. We do expect activity to increase in the spring and summer months, and we built our budget around some of those expectations. So I don't have anything to report except we appear to be on track to where we thought we were going to be. Hopefully, I was reading the Wall Street Journal this morning. Sadly, I don't think we're going to get a rate decline from the Fed, or at least not as much as everybody had hoped. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But we budgeted accordingly. We'll see how it comes together. So the other things that I can report on today, I mentioned at the top of the agenda before we officially started the meeting, but I'll just repeat it again that we have, as of April 1st, we have moved to the cloud, and that has been completed. And we sent out a couple of notes, but on behalf of our entire team, we would express appreciation to everybody for patience on the last several Fridays when we have had to declare a maintenance window so that the development team and our technicians at LIDA should facilitate the migration. So overall, it came together. I'm sorry Kelly couldn't be with us today for this meeting, but he was at the special ESS meeting yesterday just to give a bit of an update. Questions on that? Okay. I keep moving then. So the next thing I want to just report is that and we talked about this last month. We've been a little occupied with a few other things, so it hasn't been implemented as soon as we had originally hoped, but we're still looking to have the transition to the new point of sale system done by the end of June. Okay, so that's kind of what we're shooting for. If we can get it done by the end of May, I would love to get it done by Memorial Day if we possibly can. I want to defer to Lisa to just talk about the first counties that we're going to bring on and maybe what the transition plan is as we go forward in the coming weeks.
Thanks, Phil. So we've identified 6 counties. We had this discussion with Phil and I and Ahmed, who's our contact at Professional Solutions. We determined 6 counties would be a good test group. We've identified those 6 and confirmed with all of them that they are open to being part of the group. So we'll get those. I'm hoping those devices are shipped next week. We still need to provide a little bit of information to Ahmed, but it's good. He did bring us to the office, the new Deja Vu. I think you will all really like it. And he also told us that he has found a way to restrict returns. So that will never be something we work with going forward. I see Sherry nodding her head and Stacy as well. So that will be a nice change. And then after those 6 go, then I think we're going to do about 3 groups of 10 counties to get them up and running. And if everything's going well, we'll move on and start doing about 15 a week. But the way that should roll out is that the devices would be shipped to you. We'd let you know when that was going to happen. And then you'd be able to make an appointment, so to speak, with the people from Professional Solutions to call you and get your device plugged in. It should be not a big deal. Plug it in, unplug the old one, plug in the new one, and do maybe a little bit of programming and some testing, but it should be a pretty easy process for all of you. There are lots of training materials that are available that will be shipped to you with your device. And if any of you have questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
One of the things that I would add is that we're starting with a small group. So our intent is to go through the entire process with a small group, make sure we validated that the reports are generated the way they should be, to make sure that the connection to our payment distribution system to the counties is working correctly. Trying to use a few guinea pigs to make sure that whatever kinks are there, that we get those worked out before we bring everybody else on board. I did see a question from Kelly in the chat pod a little bit earlier. I think the question was maybe she has received an updated Verifone. I would just say with regard to the Verifone, the issue, I'm not sure where you're at, but I would want you to connect with Lisa to make sure that if you're using that new Verifone device, if you're getting your distribution as you expect it to, then that means it's probably programmed correctly and you shouldn't have to worry about that. For everybody else, as we make this transition, everybody's going to get a new device. Okay. With the arrangements that we've made with Professional Solutions, at least the first device you get is not going to have any cost to the county. It's just going to be there. I think the only discussion we have is, okay, how are we going to address the counties that need multiple devices? And we'll work with you one-on-one on that. But we're going to try and make it as easy as possible. So Veriphones are going away. I do not have an answer to the question about what should you do with your old devices yet. That's a question we're still pondering on. But you likely are not going to have to return them to the current service provider because they're all paid for. And Veriphones are moving out of date anyway. So it may be more of a landfill issue than it is a technical issue. So other questions that anybody may have on the point of sale system and where we're at with that? So I'll wrap it up by just saying, the recording fee and modernization project is underway, and lots of unanswered questions. I know at the end of March, we started doing some financial models and sharing that with the working group. They gave us some guidance on kind of what they wanted to do in terms of some different scenarios, and they have a meeting scheduled on April 24th. And we're going to be meeting with them to vet all of those ideas. We have started some preliminary work on, okay, what amendments do we need to make to section 331-604 of the Iowa Code to do what needs to be done. And then we have this list of modernization projects floating out there. And what we tried to do is, particularly as we communicate with the stakeholder groups, is think of this as a menu. Is any of this of interest to you? What do you think is important or not? We even have a survey out to the stakeholder groups right now asking for their input on what they think is important. I have given presentations to the Surveyors Association, and I spoke just the other day to a continuing ed thing for attorneys at Drake University. And so we're just doing a number of things to communicate with the stakeholder group, and we're kind of coupling and say, hey, as no fees have changed since 1984-85, looking for a reasonable change in that. And to couple with that, we're looking at some policy and program changes that might go with it, and as sort of an overall modernization initiative. Not everybody loves every idea, but generally speaking, my take on discussions with stakeholder groups has been favorable from the standpoint of there hasn't been a person I've spoken with yet that says, no way, no how to a fee increase. That hasn't happened. And there are some that are interested in some of the modernization ideas. We know that recorders are really interested in the property notification system. It turns out stakeholders are too. And so that's something that will no doubt be pursued. And then just so there's no surprise, this is kind of a dual thing, because a number of the modernization ideas, if they're supported, they're probably going to have to be done by us at Iowa Land Records. So, there are going to be some recommendations that we advance to the ESS committee and to the Recorders Association to say, to do these things that you would like us to do, here's what it's going to take going forward. Because I can tell you for a fact that our 2.5 software developers can't do everything on that list. Basically, they have a full plate just doing what we've already got on the list, and that is maintaining the system that we have right now. So anyway, there are a lot of moving parts to this. I have a sense that it can all come together. Not sure how yet, but I know that your working group is working hard on it. They're going to be looking at some fee policy models. You have a couple of working groups, like with the surveyors, that their work has continued. There just are a number of things that are all sort of out there, and hopefully they do all come together. We're, as a team, we're trying to facilitate as much of that as we can, working through the committee process. So there you are. I'm happy to answer any questions. Census, if you have questions for census, or Stacy's in the know on this too. Those who are part of the working group or the planning process, you might want to add comments too. That's my update.
I can add just real quick that with some of the bills that are passing right now, the treasurers have a couple of bills, and Census and Megan and I have really been trying to keep track of all the fiscal notes what some of the legislators really want to see is how much is it going to cost and how it's going to impact, you know, the state as a whole, how much revenue it might increase, you know, those kind of things that going into this for next session, when we propose it, that it's really important, and just seeing what worked this year for some of the legislation that passed with those fiscal notes. And I just wanted to add that we're really trying to keep track of all of that. So I don't know if Census, if you have anything more to add.
No, I think you've said it all. I think I just want people to continue connecting with their stakeholders within the grassroots level, and that we'll have more updates on things we want to do in the summer conference.
That's good. Any other questions or comments from everybody? Well,
I don't
go
have
ahead.
anything further, but
Okay.
I've said this before out loud. I've sent a couple emails out to, you know, for our guests who are with us today. You know, if you have a question that you did not want to ask in front of everybody, or, you know, if you wanted to, you know, have a follow-up discussion about any particular thing, you know, we would be happy to do that. If you wanted to have a separate Zoom session to do Finance 101 or whatever it is that would appeal to you, you know, please let us know. We'll get something worked out. But in the meantime, I hope this has been helpful to you, and what you are welcome at this meeting, even if you're not officially a committee member.
Just to tell everyone who is here, we apologize for the glitch that happened with Zoom. Zoom has issues where sometimes, even though people are in a meeting, it doesn't correspond with the code that was originally sent. And so it's not an error of the meeting link that was sent in the beginning. It's something that's going on with Zoom. We'll look at it and find a solution to it so no one has this issue again. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I think our next meeting will be May 9th at 9 a.m. Just appreciate your time and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.